Well, we're coming to your city. Gonna play our guitars and sing you a country song. We'll all be flying higher than a jetliner. And if you want to live in your yin-yang, come along.
Welcome from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, brought to you by the great folks at Andy Moore Honda Bloomington, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer. Jim Coyle with you here as always. Charlie Miller will be joining me soon on the program today, as he always does. Don Fischer joins us today. We'll also be talking to LJ Wright, the director of men's championships for the NCAA. He's also an IU grad, Floyd Central grad for that matter. Jim Reamer will join us. We'll talk some recruiting, high school, see what's going on over the weekend, the games that happened, a lot that happened in the Big Ten. Some of the big boys were playing. Baylor goes down. There's only one undefeated team remaining, which I was going to be shocked if Baylor could get through the gauntlet that they have. I mean, that would have been very, very impressive for them to do that, especially at the end of the year. Their schedule, they've got makeup games, and it's against a tough team every night, it seems. There's no way I expect Gonzaga to not be undefeated before they reach the NCAA tournament. And they probably won't be challenged in those first two games, so they're not going to be challenged until they have to basically win 4 games to go undefeated and win a national championship. We'll see if they can get that done to match the 76 Indiana Hoosiers. Not quite the same accomplishment in my mind from Gonzaga, but that's okay. What are you going to do about that? Lots of big games over the weekend. Iowa knocked off Ohio State in a big game. That was yesterday. Number 9, Iowa over Ohio State. Maryland beats Michigan State. Michigan State is not going to be happy tomorrow night when Indiana comes to visit. Indiana's next game, I think that probably Michigan State is really, really in trouble with getting to the NCAA tournament now. They are actually tied with Indiana in the conference at 7-10. So their overall record, though, is 13-10. So they still have a chance, but they have 2 games to end the season with Michigan. That's going to be a difficult task. But let's say they beat Indiana to go 14-10. You lose 2 games to Michigan, that's 14-12. You've got a winning record. That would make them 8-12 in the Big Ten. It's going to be tough. Will they take a team that has an 8-12 conference record from the Big Ten? That's going to be tricky because they'd have a winning record overall. Michigan State's got a difficult path to the NCAA tournament. Indiana, I don't see. Of course, they have a path that includes beating beating Michigan State and beating Purdue, both on the road. They get that done, they're back in the conversation without question, I would say. But not expecting that to happen. But we'll see. It all has to break out and play out, and we'll see what happens. We're definitely going to see different lineups because I think Armand Franklin won't be playing the rest of the year, so that's going to alter things. We'll see how that plays out for the Hoosiers. We'll get to see some different guys playing more minutes, different rotations. Looking forward to that. Looking forward as we get closer to the Big Ten tournament. As these teams fight to get in, the games seem to ramp up. Baylor gets knocked off over the weekend, like I said. Kansas is I'm not going to call them a mid-level team in the Big 12, but they're down there. But that's how the Big 12 is very deep as well. It's going to be a fun tournament. For as crazy as the year has been, I think it's going to be a really, really fun tournament. So we're looking forward to that and several things more. Looking forward to Don Fischer joining us here on the program today as Indiana prepares to travel to East Lansing tomorrow. As I'll take on the Spartans, as Sparty is, so you've got a tale of 2 teams, both fighting here at the end of the season. They've got something to fight for. As Don Fischer joins us now. Don, how are you doing, sir? Well, he's about to join. Don, how are you, sir?
I'm good. How about yourself?
Well, I cannot complain. It's warmer. It's not raining, so I'm trying to find positives out there. It's been a long year, and it's just we're at the end of it, maybe, and we'll see how things are going. But you've got a busy week. You got 2 games coming up. No coaches show tonight, though. I know that's moved to Thursday, so it's still a very, very busy week for you.
Well, it is. It's a very important week for this Indiana basketball team. There's no question about that. They put themselves squarely either on the bubble or just out of the bubble right now, and they've got to find a way to turn things around after 2 more losses this past week that has given them a 3-game losing streak, which is the first of the season in that regard. Couldn't come at a worse time. Indiana's playing maybe without question, the worst basketball they've played this year at this juncture, and that's all bad news for this Indiana program right now, because Indiana obviously was hoping to get into the NCAA tournament. Last year they got left out of the picture because of the COVID hit. It looked like they were probably going to get a bid to the NCAA tournament. It didn't happen because everything was shut down, and they didn't even have an NCAA event last year. So this was the season that Indiana thought that they would break through and get back into the NCAA tournament field. And right now, Indiana is squarely not in that picture if they continue the current string of losses. They are 12-12, 7-10 in the league, tied with Michigan State in the conference standings for the number 8 spot. And it's right now, it's one of those situations that if they don't beat Michigan State tomorrow night and they lose to Purdue, their chances of going to the NCAA tournament are gone, with the exception of maybe winning the Big Ten tournament. That's the only way I can see them getting in. So this is a tremendously important week for this Indiana program.
Yeah, and as they travel to Michigan State, Don, it's a team that is also in a similar situation. They're trying to get in. They had made a late run. They lose over the weekend, so that didn't help their cause. So they're going to be they're not going to be happy when Indiana arrives. Both of these teams fighting for their lives. So they're both in similar situation. Michigan State has a slight advantage of being home if there isn't a home advantage this year. But both teams are in the similar place right now in fighting for their tournament lives this late in the season.
Well, there's no question. Michigan State's record, however, is 13-10 overall. So their record is actually better than Indiana's overall at 12-12. And despite the fact that it's not despite the fact. The fact is they beat Indiana, and they beat them soundly. They kind of started this downfall for the Hoosiers. And Indiana now is also a man short, because Armand Franklin, it does not appear, is going to be able to play probably this week. I would say probably his chances of playing, based on what Archie Miller has said after the ball game on Saturday, his chances of playing maybe for the rest of the foreseeable portion of the schedule is still up in the air. It doesn't look like he's going to be available this week, and he may not be available for the Big Ten tournament. So this team is in real trouble right now in that regard, unless they turn things around mentally, because that's right now where this team's at. It's a mental problem for this ball club. Whether they've lost heart, believe that they can't win, we don't know what their psyche right now looks like, other than the fact that it's not good, because they certainly did not play well against Rutgers earlier this week. And against Michigan on Saturday, Michigan just slowly took the game out of their hands as the game progressed. I would say that they battled, but it wasn't a great battle, to say the least.
Yeah, Don, and then the one positive I will say is because of the injury, Archie was forced to do some change in the lineup, changing some rotations. We got to see some different guys get more minutes, and so there's a positive there. The play of Christian Lander I guess it's not really a positive, but at one point for a long time he had outscored Trace Jackson Davis. Now that's not good, because Trace Jackson should have had more points, but it was positive to see Langford with 7 points at one time, getting in there, getting more minutes for these guys, and it's something that they desperately need. So there was some positives that's coming out of that.
Well, I agree. I mean, the freshmen this year have been up and down. They've not had any consistency to their games. Once in a while they'll pop out there and they'll play really well. Christian has been one of those guys that really struggled early on, wasn't playing very well at the defensive end, still makes a lot of mistakes out there on the floor. He's very quick. He's got tools. There's no question about that. But sometimes he just plays, it seems like, out of control and makes too many mistakes. Now, in this game, he didn't throw the ball away. He had just one turnover in the contest. He shot the ball fairly well, hit 3 of 8, 1 of 3 from the three-point line, as you said, with 7 points. So he did a solid job out there. There's no doubt about that. But they're going to need more than that. They're going to need other guys to step up as well. Trey Galloway, who was really a constant, especially at the defensive end, and doing a good job of handling the basketball earlier in the season. Since his back injury, he's not been the same player and still hasn't performed up to expectations here at the end of the season. Geronimo's coming off the bench now and giving them more minutes, and certainly on Saturday he had something to do with that, but he hasn't produced a ton. And Anthony Leal, who looked like the guy that may be stepping up as the three-point shooter on this team, along with a couple of others, has not done much at all of late. So it's going to call for some guys to look in the mirror this week. There's no question about that. And they're going to have to step up and play their best basketball if Indiana's to get out of the spunk that they're currently in.
Yeah, Don, especially, and then you go into the conference tournament, and you mentioned the keyword confidence. And when you go into an event like that, you've got to be confident when you get there because everybody is there and everybody is at the bottom playing for what you're playing for. So overcoming the mental aspect of that is just going to be something they have to get forward. And they have the opportunity of doing that here in Indianapolis. Hopefully that they can draw something from that and maybe go on a run in the tournament.
Well, we hope that this all turns into that. There is no question about it. But it's going to boil down to these players deciding for themselves just how hard they want to work and how hard they want to play. The one thing that Archie has said all year long about this team is that they go in every week and after a loss or a win, and they practice really hard and they really work their tails off. And it just doesn't always transfer to the games. That's what's been a big problem for this basketball team. Whatever they do in practice, you would think they take into ball games, and sometimes they do, and sometimes it seems like they do not. Again, I think this is a mental thing. I think mentally this team has struggled of late, and I think that's the one area, if they can turn that around and just get out there and play and start playing with the heart that we know that they have and have shown in many of these ball games this year. This team's played a lot of really good basketball teams this season, and they played really well at times, but it has not been consistent. We talked about the most consistent thing about this team is their inconsistency, and certainly here in the last 3 ball games, we haven't even seen any kind of consistency except negative consistency with this ball club. And they've got to get out of this realm of or this funk, if you will, of what they're dealing with, whatever it may be, and they've got to find a way to turn this thing around or this season will be over.
Yeah, as you can tell, I'm trying to be as positive as possible on this as we get towards the end of the season because there's no sense in piling on. But Charlie Miller, Charlie, you're with us now. Charlie joined us now. But Charlie, as a player, you've seen this at the end of the year, talking with Don here. What can they do to get to the point that they know they need to get to right now?
Well, one, how you guys doing this morning?
I'm good. Talk to Don.
Good, Charlie.
Hey, man, great. Well, hey, I can't agree with Don more. I mean, it's mental at this time of year, right? I mean, I can only imagine having tough losses, working your tail off in practice, but then it does not transfer to games. But I think it's a mental funk, right? It's you are right now. It's all about mentality, especially this time of the year. And the losses that you have, I mean, that Rutgers game, I mean, not to bring it back, but I mean, a 20-plus point swing, that's a mental thing. That starts that kind of, toughness, that mental toughness that sometimes is lost. And then a tough loss against Michigan, that slowly but surely kind of happened over time. So, I mean, I agree. It's mental. I mean, it's all mental. I mean, we just need just all out fight, from start of the game to end of the game for me.
And Don, so as they move forward now, what can they do different from what you've seen? Your seat has been so unique because you get to see these guys and you actually see the flow a lot closer than some of us get to at times. What can they do different at this late in the season, really, to change?
Well, let's face it, the staple of this team supposedly was going to be defensive play. And we have not seen that staple take over games here of late. They've got to get back to playing really good at the defensive end. There's got to be a fierceness of wanting to fight out there to make sure that they are able to stop teams, that they cannot just take uncontested threes and knock down shots. Michigan, I actually thought that they contested a lot of what Michigan tried to do. Michigan's just a better basketball team right now, and they play so well together. And Indiana could take, if they could just watch that film and say, we got to look like that, they would be a better basketball team right now. But what's missing from this ball club, in my opinion, is their staple. Their defensive play has not just been what it needs to be, and that fierceness that you have to play with at the defensive end of the floor is going to be the difference if this team is going to get back on track again. Because if you don't have that fierceness defensively, you've got no chance against these teams in the Big Ten. And that's where this game will be won. If Indiana can play defense, it will have a chance to win here in the next two ball games prior to the Big Ten tournament.
Yeah, exactly. And then because their defense has predicated some of their offense, Trace Jackson-Davis getting going without Armaan Franklin, as you've noticed or mentioned, the best shooter on this team so far this year. They're going to have to get input from other guys. Jerome Hunter, he had his first start ever as an Indiana player in this last game because of the injury, and he gets the opportunity to step up. You'd like to see him get to do more in there. He's going to have to loosen things up for Trace Jackson-Davis.
There's no question. I mean, other people are going to have to step up. Somebody on this freshman group, they're going to have to step up. They've got to start playing the kind of basketball. At the end, they're no longer freshmen at the end of this season. They've been around long enough. They know the system. They know what they're expected to do. They know how to play the way the coach wants them to play, and they know how hard they have to play if they're going to have a chance to win ball games. So there's no excuses at this point in the season. Right now, you either want it or you don't, and we're going to find out here this week.
Absolutely, Donna. The coaches show moved to Thursday, correct?
That is correct. We've got the team traveling to Michigan State tonight, so they'll be on their way to East Lansing. So we moved the show to Thursday night. We'll be on the air Thursday night at 6:30 with the Inside IU Basketball Show with Archie Miller.
But, of course, Don is tomorrow night with the game and then back this weekend at Purdue. So a big, big week for Don and the Indiana basketball team. Don, I cannot thank you enough. As always, we appreciate you, sir.
Thanks for having me, guys. See ya.
Hey, thank you.
The great Don Fischer joining us here on Indiana Sports Speed. Back with Charlie Miller and much more from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. Brought to you by Andy Moore Honda Bloomington right after this.
Hey, we all want more. No one gives you more for less than
Boom. Man, that's a great out. Next is that LJ Wright. I actually went to high school with him.
Oh, nice.
His dad was our athletics director. Was the only athletics director my school knew because the school came into existence in 1967 and I was there in the 1980s, but he was there through the 1990s, I think. But he's also what you saw that and I'd forgotten he was a freshman manager on the 87 team.
Yeah.
But he's cousins with Pat Graham.
There we go.
So, and I think he was a freshman when he was a senior when Pat was a freshman.
Yeah.
He played. So.
Yeah, I was going to say, man, those guys, all those guys, you got some guys doing some great things as managers, former managers now in the basketball world.
Flip, are you kidding me, man? NBA or some NBA coaches, NBA GMs.
Right.
It's freaking nuts.
Right.
Donnie, what's his name? May.
Dusty May.
Dusty May.
FAU. Yeah.
I wish we could get a freaking list. It would probably be mind-boggling.
Yeah, because you got George David. May not ring a bell as far as a name, but George David went on to be really Joe Dumars' right-hand man. So George was a part of a lot of those runs at Detroit when they were winning championships. That was a lot of George.
You mean the Bad Boys?
Yeah, no, not the Bad Boys. We're talking about when Chauncey Billups.
He was coaching.
Yeah, no, yeah, it was. No, Joe Dumars was, I believe he was the GM.
He was front office. Front office.
Yeah, because great story. I think it's a great story to tell when we come back live. I mean, but whenever we want to talk about it, but like, I mean.
Oh, absolutely. No, absolutely.
You got guys doing some great things.
Because I've talked about it before, but there's so many stories that I was like, man, we're just scratching the surface because you think about it. This team here had 6 senior managers on it.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, and I'm telling you, those guys are primed and positioned because what they do, the film study. I mean, I think it's something to say when we get back online, but like what they do to assist the coaches and us as players is phenomenal. I mean, and then.
And a good experience that is waiting for you on your next visit to French Lick, West Baden.
Today's guest is brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry of Sellersburg. You need $1 million smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you'll get with Reynolds Family Dentistry.
And you may tell yourself, this is not my beautiful wife.
Welcome back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, brought to you by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer. 0% sales event closing down there. You better get in there, get more to your door from AndyMooreHonda.com. Charlie Miller here with us, as always, on this Monday as we start the week. Jim Coyle with you here in the Eagle Point Studios. We're waiting for LJ Wright to join us. LJ is a former manager at Indiana. I had forgotten he was a freshman on the 87 team, national championship team. We actually went to high school together. I don't want to spill it all till LJ gets on here, but I went to Floyd Central, but LJ is also a cousin of Pat Graham. LJ's dad was our athletics director at Floyd, the only athletics director we knew for like 30 years at that school. But he is now the director of men's championships for the NCAA. I mean, his career started off as an assistant to Mike Fox, a big name in Indianapolis at the Hoosier Dome, and just has moved up. So looking forward to talking to LJ. And we were just talking off air with Charlie, and we'll continue this after the conversation with LJ. And we've talked a little bit before about former managers at Indiana, especially during the Bob Knight era. It's just absolutely nuts as LJ is jumping on here with us now. LJ, how you doing, man?
Hey, doing well. Sorry, I had a little fire I was putting out.
That's always the case, right?
Right now, that's the case.
Man, it's actually great to see you because I don't know that I've seen you in I don't even know how long it's been. Probably 25 years. I don't know.
Yeah, probably a few pounds heavier and definitely have a few more gray hairs.
Definitely on this side as well. Charlie Miller joining us as well, former IU player, sits in with us each Friday.
How you doing,
Good to see you, Charlie.
Good.
I sent Charlie. I just happened to find a piece that they did on WBIW.com like a week ago. I'm like, I thought I was the only person that knew this, but no, man, everybody knows about you and the great things that you're doing. But I was just telling him that you went to Floyd Central. You're a few years younger than me, but cousin to Pat Graham. I think, were you a senior when Pat was a freshman?
Right, yes.
That's what I thought. So you got to play. Who was Agnew? Who was with you your senior years? Agnew and those guys?
Yeah, so Todd Agnew, Kevin Abels, Brian Hinton.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that was a tough team. As a fighter, that's a rough team right there, man. But LJ played Indiana high school basketball. So you talk about the perfect backstory, and then you came up. What was your first? Didn't you start working for Mike Fox at the Hoosier Dome or something?
Yeah. So I got an internship from Mike, and it happened to be around the 1991 Final Four. And that was at the then Hoosier Dome, before it became the RCA Dome. Now it doesn't even exist. But yeah, that played out and then ultimately turned into a job for me that I was at for about 11 years, I guess, including the internship.
But nuts. But we were talking earlier about, and we've had conversations before about Indiana basketball managers, especially those through the Bob Knight era that have gone on. And I just said, I wish I had a list, could compile a list, because you continue to learn more and more about. And I know we know about the big one, Lawrence Frank, all those guys, but and I knew about you, but there's so many that like. Charlie was just telling me about that's involved with Joe Dumars and all those guys. But
I was telling him about George David, that went on with Detroit. Dusty May, he was my class in '98. He went on. He was with Mike Davis for a while. Now he's at FAU. One of the reasons, LJ, actually, I'm a basketball development coach, and one of the reasons I got into it was literally I was inspired by Joe Abunassar.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Joe Abunassar, he went on to coach with Joby at Wyoming for a little bit, but then he got into player development. And Joe was a pioneer that really broke ground in player development. So it's interesting when I think about the value that you guys brought to us as players, right? and the amount of film, right? And the Duke room. To watch, it was all done by you guys, man. So there's always appreciation for what you all brought to us.
Yeah, it's certainly, there were a lot of things behind the scenes, and the way I think Coach kind of pressed us in ways that we didn't even realize it, like he was pressing you guys.
Yes, sir.
And trying to develop you for things beyond basketball.
Transform the sport, right? Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. It was things that I'll never forget, and the opportunities in the time it wasn't maybe necessarily always fun, right? But it certainly helped to build us and allow us to understand we can pretty much deal with anything that's tossed at us.
Well, that's that resiliency I always go back to, right? It's just holistic resiliency.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, sir.
There cannot be a group, a list of basketball managers in this country that has probably the accomplishments that the Indiana list would be. And I'm not saying that for any reason other than it's got to be fine. It's staggering. It really is staggering.
Yeah.
The accomplishments. When you see guys, what your position is incredible, but to see a guy become an NBA head coach, a GM, I'm like, okay, well, wait a minute. We're talking about a whole nother universe here.
So when we hired Lawrence, because you go through an interview process, and when we hired Lawrence, it was, and we called him L. He wanted to be called L. He comes in and he's this little, just scrawny, skinny kid that you could shove him in a locker. Just a little kid, but man, he was full of fire, and he said that was what he was going to do. And every day he came to practice and he had a notebook and he would write stuff down, and he was there to learn, because that's what he wanted to do, was become an NBA coach. And sure enough, there he is, he made that dream come true.
Amazing. And you yourself, of course, have followed up right through the ranks and a position now of director of men's championships for the NCAA. Incredible. That sounds like a lot of headaches is what it sounds like, LJ.
Well, yeah, it's for me, just, it's a dream job. I never thought that I was going to be in this position. And when I was an event coordinator at the RCA Dome, I would be meeting with Tom Jernstedt, who recently passed away, was the executive vice president of the NCAA, but he's really who created and developed the men's tournament into what it is. And but there was Bill Hancock, who's now, leading the CFP charge, but he was the director, and he'd come in and meet with us. And it's like, these guys are all doing this job that I'm like, man, I wish I could have, but there's no way. And then this job just, it really fell in my lap, because Bill was in the process of moving on to kind of retire until he, I guess, got the gig that he's got now. But he, when he moved on, I'd called because I wanted to, I was applying for an assistant GM position of the Georgia Dome in Atlanta. And so I called over and talked to Greg Shaheen and Tom Jernstead with the men's staff, and I just said, hey, would you guys be a reference for me? And they just laughed at me and said, we were just talking about you. And so the next thing I know is I've got 2 job offers on my plate, and I could either pick up my family, move to Atlanta, or stay in Indianapolis, keep my house, and just, do a job that I had been dreaming about, and so it was a pretty easy choice.
Yeah, it's not very often that the dream jobs come along to people, because the importance of loving what you do can't impress upon that enough. But the basketball being such a part of your life, I mean, your dad was, I can't remember if I said this off air or not, but his dad was our athletics director, only one that I ever knew for the length of the school when I was there through the 90s. When did he retire? In
late 90s.
Yeah, so he was there when the school opened in '67, but it's the complex has his name on it, so it's a great area down there too. But coming from that area, the Southern Indiana, we didn't get a lot of respect, I didn't think, sports wise back then. I love our friend Todd Leary when he's on. He likes to call us Hicks when he refers to us. But what was it like coming up from being a Southern Indiana player to coming up there? You see that? Hear any of that?
Yeah, well, a funny story. One of the because I grew up in a little one caution light town called Borden, and I ended up at Floyd Central just because Dad would never have seen me or my sister participate in any athletics or any extracurricular activities, and so. I was like farm town kid. Well, so when I went to Bloomington, one year I had to go pick up one of the players who had been in and had a surgery at the hospital. And so Tim Grohl says, here's the keys, go pick up so-and-so. Well, so-and-so was underneath, he was at a hospital under a different name, had an alias name. And so I'm like, okay, I'm just a little kid driving to Indianapolis really for the first time type thing, and I'm thinking, okay, the hotel's just right off the interstate. Okay, great. I'll find it. I get in, I drive the entire loop around 465 before I finally came back and picked up the player. But it was like, I had no idea what I was doing. And certainly a few years under my belt now, I feel a lot more comfortable around Indianapolis.
Yeah, but it's fun. I can see how that could be daunting. But now we have the NCAA tournament that you are the director of men's championships landing in Indianapolis. First of all, for that to ever happen, that's never even something that anybody would even to think to conceive of happening. But it happened because of the COVID, of course. But it's here. Not only is it here, but you get to. Be running that and in Simon Scott Assembly Hall, which is kind of unique. I mean, this would not have been unique maybe in the 80s, but it is now. So that's kind of a unique thing for you as well. But to have it here within the state and to be in charge of all that, it's got to be daunting, but yet very, very cool, a cool thing to have to know.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be, I think once we look back on it, because we are certainly making history and I mean, it's, 67 games right here in central Indiana, and 6 of those games are going to be played in Simon Scott Assembly Hall. And just going back there for some site visits and preparation, it's just so cool for me to walk in. And, Chuck Crabb's kind of on his way out there, but he's still the facilities guy. And you walk in and it's like, gosh, it's old home week. It's comfortable. It's a comfortable fit for me. And
Tim Garl, you mentioned Tim Garl.
Yeah, and so there's a comfort about it. Let's just hope the Hoosiers can get in the tournament this year. They got a little work to do, I think, but let's hope that plays out. The last time the tournament was there was in '81 when they went on to win a national championship. So there's a lot of history there, and it's been neat for me to go back and take some of our staff and just just to have them experience Assembly Hall in some cases for the first time.
Mm-hmm. What has it been for you to put this tournament together within the state? I mean, it's got to be a little easier because the venues are all close, but the all of the other logistics, man, I'm sitting there thinking about the many bubbles that are basically being put up everywhere. The logistics itself has got to be mind blowing.
Yeah, it is. In some ways, it's it's good because we have relationships. You know, if we were someplace else like the NBA, what the NBA did in Orlando or in Vegas or something like that, where the weather may be warmer, but you don't have those relationships and know that you can rely on folks and their yes is yes and their no is no type thing. Not having those relationships, but having those in Indianapolis, I should say, in the central Indiana area, it makes a world of difference. I mean, we're trying to jam an 18-month planning process into basically 2.5 months. And so there are so many details. And I can tell you, when I start thinking about it, it's what keeps me up at night and what wakes me up in the middle of the night. And it are these little details that are going to make the experience incredible for the student athlete. And there are going to be some that we just don't get right, because there's a natural process when you do it year after year. I've been doing this. This will be my 19th championship. I guess you can't really count last year, but we did go through the planning process. But, things fall into place and you know what's going to happen when you do a certain thing. And this year it is just, we don't call it madness for nothing, and this year is really, it's certainly madness.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can't imagine the planning within the state and the excitement there. And it's let's just be honest, it sucks. Indiana's probably not going to be in it. It's going to take something we haven't seen all year. That's very disappointing to a lot of fans. You're a fan, I'm sure. But it's just so disappointing not to have Indiana in this tournament when it's in the state.
Well, we'll know on Sunday the 14th. We got
the man of eternal optimism.
A few more games. You never know. And,
eternal optimist.
That's absolutely. I mean, I think that they're a quality program, and I think Coach Miller'd like to see Charlie walking on the court, and being there for him. But I think they still got a shot. The committee's going to certainly look at everything. And one of the cool things about my job, one of the blessings that I have is I'm in the selection room with the men's basketball committee.
Oh,
and
wow.
so I'm sitting there helping them. I feed them the data, and I control two of the 4 monitors in front of each committee member, and putting up team sheets and stats for the teams, running different reports, and that process is so cool. And I'll promise you guys and every Hoosier fan out there that they're going to be evaluated fairly, equally, and you never know what's ultimately going to come out of it. But it's all the, and nothing, no offense, Jim, but like the talking heads out there, they'll think they know what's going on and how things are, all the things that go on behind the scenes. But I'm telling you, it is an incredible process, one that I'm proud to be a part of, and we'll just see where the Hoosiers come out. I don't think they're dead in the water yet. But I would love to see them get a victory or two, coming down the stretch.
Oh yeah, I'd agree. If they win, that changes the whole ball game. And the one thing I tell everybody is, you do not know what you do not know, and that goes for me. And I tell them it goes for me too. There's that level up there. There are things there I do not know what I do not know. But yeah, and that selection room, like you talked about, most of the teams are probably already selected because they know it's those last so many that you got to fill in, those last at large, like the Indianas, the Michigan States who are trying to get in, the conference, the smaller conferences who you may have a different winner and things like that. But yeah, those last teams, evaluating the resumes of the Michigan States and the Indianas, and as badly as Indiana has looked, yeah, they've got their metrics are high because they play in the Big Ten. I mean, you lose against. Sure. I saw a team lose to Michigan earlier in the year, and their net rankings went up 2 spots. Yeah. So they're not. I don't mean by any stretch they're dead in the water, but they have to win. But it would certainly be enjoyable to see. It was nice to see Butler with a big win last night. I don't think they're going to make it in.
Sure.
I don't know that they can make it in, but it's just a weird year. But as weird as this year has been, I think it's going to be a fantastic tournament. I think the games, I swear, like I've been watching the Big 12 all year, these Big 10. I think the games are going to be absolutely freaking fantastic. I think the games are going to be mind-boggling good. I really do.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think the tournament ever really lets us down with how the quality of the games. You just think, man, can they get any better? And they just seem to. And you know, I don't know what, like Charlie would be able to speak to it better than either of us, really playing on that big stage. And I can't imagine not having the fans there, you know, the energy that you draw from them. I hate that for the guys this year, and you know, for all of all the 90 championships that the NCAA has, and the participants, that you know, just not having that energy around you has got to be tough. But we're certainly going to do everything we can to give them the best possible experience. You know, so it's making memories. You know, I mean, the memories that are made during this championship are life lasting.
The one question we did get in from a fan: why is NCAA changing the tourney schedule? I'm not sure how they're changing. I'm not sure what they mean changing the schedule there, but
well, it probably has to do with just because of you know, normally we'll start on we'll have first round game, or first 4 games, I should say, in Dayton on Tuesday, Wednesday, and then start first and second rounds on Thursday and Friday, second rounds on Saturday and Sunday. And I mean, that's changing. We're putting all the first 4 games on one day in 2 sites, and that'll all happen on a Thursday. And then we'll run first rounds Friday, Saturday, and then Sunday, Monday will be second rounds. And then we'll have a few days off before we hit the regionals, and everything will just be a little more condensed this year.
I imagine that just has to do with scheduling because of everybody being here and in the bubbles and all of that. It's just a logistics
the
issue.
details of getting teams in, I mean, it's insane when you think about having 68 teams and you're bringing them all into downtown Indianapolis. You know, we're working on some things where, you know, some teams are going to know they're in the tournament because they're an automatic qualifier. They're going to win. Whoever wins the Big West, you know, conference, they're going to know prior to Selection Sunday that they're in the tournament. They just don't know where they're going. So in theory, they'll be able to get on a plane and get to Indianapolis, and we'll be orchestrating all of that. And I think there's something like 10 teams that could potentially come into town early, and we'll have them, you know, but having all of them come into one spot, and you're trying to, we're limiting the number of hotels. People just teams aren't going to stay where they want. We're controlling all of that. And it's going to be a little bit of chaos. And things like riding on a team bus. So for a travel party of 34, which is what we're allowing, it's going to take, and it's a 50 to 55 passenger bus. It's going to take 3 buses because of the protocols in place, health protocols. It's just, okay, now you got 3 buses. Now going to a site, you've got 6 buses for 2 teams. And it's like, just the logistics of all that is it's crazy.
Holy cow. And then you just keep going out to 68 teams and the drivers and the volunteers.
Sure.
How many volunteers? I know that this tournament revolves around volunteers as well, but to have it in one spot and needing all those volunteers, have you all gotten all of your volunteers already?
Yeah, I think really working with the Indiana Sports Corporation to help us with a lot of that, and the various hosts, you know, at the sites. But this year, because there's fewer public that are going to be coming, you know, there's a big difference. Going to a Final Four with 72,000+, you know, is a big difference between going to a Final Four where when we're still working on the numbers, but you know, say it's between 5,000 and 8,000 people. Well, that's a big difference in all the other extra activities that are going on around for the fans. And so the number of volunteers in that regard is going to be less. But there are certainly other things where we're going to be doing things that I can't tell you because it's got to be a secret. But it's going to be a lot of things that come in into the process, and so these volunteers are going to be doing some of that. So ultimately, there's probably going to be a couple thousand volunteers, I'd say. Which in Indianapolis is so well known for their volunteers and Hoosier hospitality and all of that. We're very blessed and fortunate to be in Indy with this thing this year.
Yeah, nobody does anything better than Indianapolis. It is the sports capital of the world in my mind. Capacity, I know, is 25% everywhere except the Simon Scott Assembly Hall, unfortunately, where they're going to only allow 500 people in, I believe, which is 25% of 2,000.
Yeah, and we're really saying, Jim, up to 25% because, you know, once we once we get the TV cameras and things located, well, normally you can have a TV camera and you can have just a couple of seats away. You might be able to have, or maybe even a seat away, you've got a fan sitting there. Well, now because of
social distancing
protocols, the safety protocols, we've got to have extra space. So now that's obstructing, or it's eliminating the opportunity of some of those seats. Normally like a Jim Nance is sitting down right next to the court, and he's literally right there. And that's not going to be the case, because in order for him to call the game, he's going to have to be, unmasked if everybody at home is going to hear him. So now, we're working with the health departments of the counties. Now the broadcast announcers are going to be sitting back about 25 feet from the court, and they're going to be in plexiglass, and it's just, so now that starts to wipe out more seats, and those sorts of things are really going to eat into some of that capacity, unfortunately.
But Lisa, now are most of those going to be eaten up by family, friends? I'm thinking.
Yeah, we're saying the travel party is going to get 204 tickets, and per team, and so for a game that's basically 408 tickets, right? So so now you can start to figure out, okay, well, if there's 1,000 seats available, well, you don't have that many, just a little over 500 seats. If you got, if you got 6,000, well, you're still, I mean, that eats into it. But at least for those participants, the teams, their families are going to be able to be there, and man, that's such a special and important part of for the, I think, the player as well as the family. Mom and dad wants to see Charlie on the floor.
That's right. Absolutely, man. This has just been it's been a blast just getting to see you. But the information has been unbelievable and awesome. I've been wanting to have you on for so long. I would see your dad at the IU games, but of course that did not happen this year. And you were talking about earlier the energy. I'll tell you, it sucks to go there. I'm fortunate to be one of the few that gets to get in, but it's not fun. It's even for us. Without that energy, it is really truly missing. So I can only imagine the players, especially when you get into crunch time and you really need that. It's what are they? One last question: noise, crowd noise. Are they going to do anything different with that? Is it going to be more of an NBA feel?
Yeah, we're working on the crowd noise. I mean, you've got to do it right. I think some of our member institutions and conferences have tried to do some things, and sometimes it sounds like there's noise in a can on TV.
Don't do what they're doing at Simon Scott Assembly Hall. I'll tell you that now.
And so one of the things we were really truly hopeful for is to be able to get some fans in, because even with a couple of 1,000 fans, it makes a tremendous amount of difference in the noise and the atmosphere in the building. So I think you'll find that is very helpful. Now, when you get into Lucas Oil Stadium, that place is cavernous, it's massive, and so but we'll have more opportunity for more fans there. So we think we're going to be okay, but we are doing a few things to try to enhance it. Through audio, opportunities that we'll have in each of the venues.
Will you be at the Lucas Oil during the Big Ten tournament?
I'm actually going to be in selections. We go into selections starting on Tuesday the 9th.
That's true. I forgot about that. It's already going to hunkering down, man. With LJ, I cannot thank you enough, man. It has been an absolute pleasure and an honor, man. I cannot wait to do this again after the tournament. After everything is done, and we'll have you back on and see how many more gray hairs you have between now and Selection Sunday.
Yeah, no doubt. There will be a few more.
Please tell you. Please tell you.
I just want to say, I'm very super excited for you and all the things you've accomplished. And it's never been a disrespect for anybody to me being a manager and the things you guys move on to be. It is always tremendous. And I'm just excited about the economic boost, just the overall morale boost to basketball in Indiana, period, having an opportunity, especially in Bloomington. Sure. Not because of the struggles or whatever, right? But having basketball back in Bloomington is super excited. So congratulations on what you were able to accomplish.
Thanks, Charlie. And I think as managers, I think we all just, especially maybe at Indiana, it's just, there's a family, right? And I mean,
Right.
you threw all that blood and sweat together and maybe don't have as many bruises as a manager. Although I think I got hurt as much at Indiana practicing with the guys. But appreciate your thoughts there. And Jim, I'd be happy to come back at any point, but just thrilled to be able to share a little madness with you guys this morning.
And when he said he was just a country boy growing up, trust me, I know where living out there on Trainer Road is a lonely, lonely place, man. I know exactly where he lives.
Yeah.
Man, LJ, thank you, brother. Rest and relaxation for the next 4 weeks, 5 weeks, however much long we got, and good thoughts to you. But thank you so much.
Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Take care.
LJ Wright, the director of men's championships from the NCAA, taking time to join us here on Indiana Sports Beat. Back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios with more right after this.
Welcome
Man, that
to
was awesome.
Yeah,
That was awesome. I haven't seen him in freaking 25 years, probably.
That's amazing. And I mean, just again, you don't hear it enough, man, but you just, it's an amazing platform you have to have that ability. But then to connect with somebody like that you knew from way back when, man, that's awesome.
It is. It's just cool and then yesterday, I ran into a guy, a friend of mine that lives here, whose dad started Nick's. His dad also started Mother Bears. His dad also started the Cafe Pizzeria, started all those. Well, he didn't start Nick's, but he owned Nick's from the 50s. Mm-hmm. But I'm with him all the time. But yesterday, friends joining me, and a guy comes in and says his name is Tom Boyer. I'm like, man, I had a class with this dude at IU.
Right.
His dad's a Hall of Famer. His dad's a Hall of Fame basketball player for Indiana. Was like the 14th leading scorer at one time. But I'm like, but he played football. If it's the guy I'm thinking of, and Rex said, yeah, but he played football. I'm like, yeah, so we had a golf class together.
There you go.
He was punter and a quarterback, but we were this golf class. It was inside, and so we were on a gym floor. We hitting these rubber golf balls, but he had a deal. He had a deal where he could set up 5 balls in a row and just hit them one and just not stop and just keep going off of a gym floor and not touch the floor.
Even hit the floor.
I'm like, wow, and it was like,
whoa.
Poof, poof. And I remembered that, and he remembered doing that yesterday. That was the first time I'd seen him in probably 30 years. So I was like, wow. So I love cool stories.
Yes, sir. That's good stuff.
I can't remember what his actual name is. Man, how are things down there? You guys get warmed up?
We did, but I've seen every element of weather. It was 3 degrees a week and a half ago. It was 75 a couple of days ago. It stormed, lightning. I mean, really bad. So this is, I guess, we're on the time of the year, right? So,
yeah, I'm not. And you guys are listening on the side. I see questions coming up like, who would Charlie have as coach and stuff. We're not gonna until the season's over. That's a possibility. There's not really. I'll tell you right now. I'm not gonna. I'll tell you stuff like that, but I'm not gonna have players ask that, at least until there's a possibility of it, because they're not going to do it.
Hey, you learn. Hey, that's a great question. I'm not going to avoid it.
Would you answer it now? Welcome back. Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios on this Monday, getting your week started off right. Brought to you by the great folks at Andy Moore Honda Bloomington, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer. 0% sales event still going on. You can get more to your door with AndyMooreHonda.com. That's about to wrap up, though. You better take advantage of it. Man, that was awesome having LJ on, Charlie. It was just so cool. I mean, a dude that I went to high school with and hadn't seen in so long, but for what he's doing, and just a fun time for him. Well, I don't know how much fun it is right now, but can you imagine being in the selection committee room?
Hey, look,
that's the war headquarters, man.
I mean, listen. First of all, it got moved back, right? Wait, but it got moved back in the 2000s, roughly, because wasn't it somewhere else? Wasn't it in Kansas, right?
Oh yeah. I can't remember when they moved.
It was in Kansas. Okay. So my thing is
Kansas City.
Yeah, Kansas City. The thing that to me is always that's really good, and I know it sucks right now because we want to win as an organization. You're used to winning. You want to see winning ways happen, and it's not happening. But for me, as a former player and not living in nostalgia, what I always appreciate is when you hear stories like a LJ Wright, when you hear about guys that are going on, and that's actually influencing basketball in the country. That to me is what I get super excited about. Again, like winning, because I mean it's phenomenal what he's doing, and the calculations that like you said, nothing against the talking heads, right? But it's like it's one thing to say who's going to get in. They're looking at data. They're going off of like data, and we're going to be surprised at some teams that do get in because of the data, right? So it's just amazing to understand what goes on.
I know people are going to think we're crazy, but Jim Reamer is going to join us now, and will be with us after that. We'll take another break in a second, but because we went so long with LJ, I went through that break, and I was like, I don't mind doing that sometimes. It was just such a fun conversation. But Jim, how you doing, man?
Doing well, Jim. How are you? Can you hear me all right?
Absolutely. Charlie Miller with us. We just got off with LJ Wright is actually a friend of mine I went to high school with. He's the director of men's championships for the NCAA. We had him on earlier, and just getting to talk to him was cool about all the stuff that's going on with the NCAA tournament here. And he's actually in the selection committee room, which I had no idea. I mean, because all the stuff he has to deal with is enough. But I'm like, wow, being in that red, that's a headache. I can't imagine, but a cool place to be.
I would love to hear sort of the things they go through to decide, especially some of those bubble teams, who gets in and what their ultimate thought process is. They don't need to be transparent with it, but I think would make for good debate for sure.
It would sure be nice if afterwards, after it's over, like a month later, they video this stuff, and even though they're going to edit, I know they're going to edit. Let's see this. Let's see, and they're going to cut the stuff out. But I mean, let's get a snippet of it. I'd like to know, but yeah, I would doubt that. But it would be fun, that's for sure, because I think there's a phrase I always say, I said it earlier, you don't know what you don't know. For fans, that gap is gigantic. For me, it's still there because there's I don't know what I don't know. There's things going on in practice. There's things behind the scenes. There's things that I just don't know, and that goes up. And what you don't know changes everything. But yeah, behind the scenes, we'll see what goes on. But we'll talk about Indiana as well, as we haven't talked much about them. So we'll talk about that as they take on Michigan State tomorrow night. Jim, this weekend, high school, continues as that was the last week of regular season, I believe, correct?
It was at least around this area, it was pretty uneventful. There were some really good games up north, but pretty much everybody, even teams that had games, I think were mostly preparing for their games this week. Center Grove even versus Brownsburg canceled their game last week just due to COVID, just not wanting to expose themselves to an additional risk. Now, there wasn't a lot of that. International high school here in Indianapolis was going to hold out its top 8 players for fear of COVID. They've had some COVID issues, but then it was senior night. So their seniors asked if they could go ahead and play. And so then coach just relented and let them all go. And it turned out okay, but that was their intention. So.
Well, we do got to hit a break. We're long, and when we come back, we're going to talk about all that with Jim and get back into Indiana and everything else. Charlie Miller's here, and I'm Jim Coyle. We're back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios right after this.
Hey, we all want more, and no one gives you more from.
What anything big happen over the weekend, Jim? Performances?
No,
I didn't see anything. So sectionals coming up this weekend, then, right?
Yeah. Somebody dropped 50. I might be able to find it, but I don't remember who it was that had a huge week, but somebody had a big game this past weekend. I think it was No, I don't want to speculate. I think it was maybe a kid up north, but I'm not sure. I don't want to talk about it on the air.
Silver Creek has a chance to win double. Their girls won a
3A
state championship.
Yeah, I think they're the favorite in 3A.
Wow, Silver Creek going to win 2 state titles, boys and girls.
Yeah, you know what? I don't know. I know that's
amazing.
It's been done before
For Silver Creek. Wow, Southern Indiana team. I bet that's never happened down there.
Now I want to know when it's been done before. I'm not sure I can get to that quickly enough. Let's see. Wow, I probably won't be fast enough to get to that. Yeah, Silver, being unabashed Carmel fan, I still tout the idea that Carmel's still your defending 4A state champion. So,
and that amazes me. The Carmel is, and because I just think there are other teams that are more talented, but they just beat these damn teams.
Yeah, they're not. I mean, they've got the talent. It's not, they don't have any current high majors right now, but they've got 2 what I think are good mid majors, and then they've got some young kids, and then they've got young kids that are talented, and then they've also got a group of kids that they can either really shoot it or they can really defend and screen.
Leary's a senior, isn't he? He comes off the bench.
He's the worst defender of the bunch, but he's willing. He works at it. So it's not like he's not out there as a sieve. Charlie, you'd like watching him play. The Carmel. They run pure 5-man motion. They run some entries into it.
Mm-hmm.
But after they get through that pretty quickly, they are straight motion. And they can possess the ball for a minute and work for a layup, or they can get down quick and get something good without having any reduction of quality of shot. So,
yeah, I think that was something that was. I think that's all in your blood. I think you guys were born with motioning in your blood.
Well, it's
exposed to motion.
The motion stuff started here with Coach Hetty, 2010, 2011. I've loved it because I've always been a fan of that.
Golfing and a premier resort experience that is waiting for you on your next visit to French Lick, West Baden.
Today's guest is brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry of Sellersburg. You need $1 million smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you'll get with Reynolds Family Dentistry.
Her home with broken hearts. I'm
Welcome back to the Golf Club Eagle Point Studios, brought to you by the fine folks at Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer. 0% sales event going on right now. Get more to your door from AndyMooreHonda.com. Joined now by Jim Reamer from Courtside, Indiana. Jim, how are you, sir?
Doing well, man. Thanks again for having me back.
Not a lot going on over the weekend. Girls ball, Silver Creek girls win a state championship, and I mention that because they could pull in a double duty with the boys being a high favorite with Trey Kaufman leading them in 3A down there. So that could be a kind of an unusual situation, especially in Southern Indiana, to see a team win double state titles.
I'm still looking to see. We talked about that during the break. I'm still looking to see if I think it's been done before, not specifically Southern Indiana, but now I'm looking it up to see if we can find it. So,
well, it's plus you advent the classes that multiplies everything by
it gives 4 shots at it,
factor of 4. So probably along the way it's happened, but we're getting closer now. Sectional play will begin this week on the boys' side. Looking forward to that. There will be some big teams that go out early, man. It always happens. I hate to see that in games 1 or 2 when you see 2 really good teams that meet early, but it just has to happen because especially in places like Indianapolis or down in Southern Indiana, when you get New Albany, Floyd Central, Jeffersonville, all in a same sectional. You see that all the time, and it'll happen this weekend. But who are some of the big matchups this week that you think are going to happen?
Oh, well, Wednesday night, it's Lawrence North versus Cathedral. So you've got 2 of the top 4 teams in the state going at it, and those who advocate for the sectionals to be seeded at the very least aren't happy about that, but I'm not really sure how sectional 10 gets parsed out any differently without having some sort of super matchup. But for me, it makes great basketball midweek. They're going to have to play each other anyway, although that sectional is so loaded, there's no safe way to go through. Tomorrow night at Carmel, Westfield versus Zionsville is probably the best game in 4A, except for, let me check the Bloomington South one. Bloomington North and Columbus North, that'll be a really good matchup. And actually, East Central is very well coached. So they will be they'll provide a little bit of difficulty for Bloomington South too. So if you're in that area, if you can get in. That's the other thing with COVID. But those would be some good matchups down in your neck of the woods. So,
Charlie, you never got to experience, I guess, Indiana high school basketball. What is it like down in, because Texas produces a lot of talent, and we've talked about the gyms, the top 12, 14, 15, whatever they are in the world. The one that's not in Indiana is in Dallas. What is that gym, by the way? Is that just a multi-purpose gym for other?
Yeah, it's like a multi-purpose. Yeah, it's like
so that shouldn't count. So it's for more than one high school.
Well, yeah, and it's interesting.
It don't count. It doesn't count.
A lot of high schools. It's pretty interesting. A lot of high schools don't play on their campus. Just like in football, they play like neutral sites almost, right? But if you're asking me about the scene, the basketball scene here, it's pretty high. I was surprised because you got a lot of players that come out every single year. If they're not going, high major D1, they're going to top prep schools. Like you had the kid, Cade Cunningham right now, who's at Oklahoma State. You got another guy right now at it's called John Paul High School, JP2. You got a kid going to Tech 6. So you got some players out of the last 5-6 years that have come out of Dallas that has gone on to do some amazing things, if not in college, at the next level. And pro.
You guys got Dallas and Houston. I mean, you got some big city. And Dallas and Texas is just big.
I'm going to tell you, it's a funny story for me. I actually had an opportunity about 5+ years ago to go watch Scott Drew at a Baylor. It was a kickoff, right? And he, kind of alums. I was invited. He called Dallas the suburb of Waco, right? Because he loves recruit. Because it's about an hour and a half, but what a hotbed of talent he has the opportunity to recruit. When you talk about players going to Baylor in this area.
Yeah, interesting. But that name Scott Drew, that's kind of funny. I was not going to talk about any of that stuff.
But I only brought it up. I brought it up to tell you a story. I don't know. Hey, listen, I'm seriously so innocent. I'm so happy to go with you right now. This is no subliminal.
That is absolutely a fact. I'm just laughing about it. I know it was. That's why I'm laughing, because it was completely uninvolved with that.
I was
there.
telling a personal story of Scott Drew.
No, I'm not trying to throw you under the bus. Don't worry.
No, I know you're
not. Jim, these sectionals that are coming up. Fans, I've seen a lot of Bedford games, whatever here late, because of where I am. I've seen on social media, whatnot. Quite a few fans in that gym. So it's not going to be. What's the IHSA doing?
No, they're nothing. They're letting the counties determine it, which that's what they should do. I mean, it's a health issue. We talked about it last night. We podcasted for 4 hours yesterday, 2 separate 2-hour podcasts on sectional predictions, and we kind of broke some of them down. And one of the discussions we started to break into was crowd size, and I nixed it. I don't want to like out some of the gyms that have come out and let more people in. People are being responsible. They're wearing masks. They are social distancing in their groups, but they're just coming in big groups. I saw a student section this week.
Bedford has got to be pushing the limits, because, man, I've seen stuff just from social media, and I don't care, but I'm like, what the hell? I'm like, wow, that thing is 2/3 full.
I saw student sections this week. That was a first, and because the most of the schools that I go to, they're not really having a lot of student attend, just because they're trying not to promote it because of the capacity. But then they're also, what school was it when they do make the students sit like 6 feet apart, and it looks kind of awkward. It looks strange. But yeah, I saw a couple student sections this week. That surprised me. I am seeing some crowds that don't care much. or, for whatever reason, that's their business. I sit kind of far away from those groups, but no, I'm excited to see crowds. I would like to see crowds still consider, taking precautions, but it'll be good for these kids to play in front of some noise and to be able to play in front of a little bit of an enthusiastic crowd. So.
Well, I hope that I'm glad that they actually do, because in talking about this, quite a few times, but we were talking to LJ about that, not having fans in there, it just sucks. I'm fortunate to get to go to the IU games, but there is no energy in there. I sit right next to the visitors bench. They have to bring their own energy, but that's it. It is really, I can't even equate the difference it is in there. It is an unbelievable difference.
Well, it's like AAU. It's friends and family is basically what it is. I mean, we play in small crowds in the spring and summer. I coached high school basketball for 8 years. So I know, and I was in two communities that really support their schools extremely well. Live in a community that supports their school team extremely well. We don't travel well here, but the home games usually are not packed, but certainly close. So it's a big change. And so what everybody's seeing now is what we see all spring and summer, basically, which is stands full of about anywhere from 20 to 30 people. And there's a little bit more crowds for high school games, but in some places there haven't been. International high school don't let parents in either. It's strictly the players and the coaches and the scorekeepers and the refs. And they don't let media in or fans.
We'll pick up on that when we come back. About to get us back to normal, but we'll do a little overtime today for you guys, so you'll be good. Back with more from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, brought to you by Andy Moore Honda Bloomington, right after this.
Hey, we all want more, and no one gives you more.
Man, your setup sounds good. What kind of mic do you have there, Jimbo?
Me, it's an Apogee. It's a bought it to interface with my iPhone, thinking that someday I might either me be doing it or having somebody do it for me.
What do you hook that into?
Just USB. I'm trying to think. I'm looking like I don't know what the hell I'm doing here. Just USB in the back of my computer.
Are you serious?
Yeah, but it was designed to work straight with an iPad or an iPhone. So it was designed to be mobile, so you could just plug it in and go.
Wow.
So I've had it
because I use them when I travel, like to do the post-game shows and stuff. I use a Behringer box to run it into my laptop. But if there's a microphone that sounds that damn good, how much is that?
I think this was either $250 or $300. I bought it 4 years ago, so I'm sure they've got better technology now, or this is cheaper. I can look it up and send you a link if you want.
Well, it's the fact that it hooks right into the computer is blowing my mind, because even here I run my mic through a Behringer box, which gives me, I guess that's just to give me more control. But even when I'm out, I didn't realize. My mic, the headset I use doesn't have the right end to go into the deal.
Well, a lot of that too. I was searching for the interface too, so
that's probably the deal. But yeah,
I mean it's straight USB, but it also has a connection. Well, I don't even know if it works with the current plugins for the iPhone, but I don't use it for that anymore. I just use it for my computer, and then didn't use it until about really regularly until last year when we started podcasting because of COVID.
Everyone's using technology.
Yeah.
Laying around, right?
It's always been on my desk. I've always meant to use it and think, I'm going to start and then I just never did it. And then finally I got hooked up. The guy that's working with me on my website he's like, hey, do you ever want a podcast? And I was like, heck yeah. And then when COVID hit, we did it because we were bored.
Exactly. Understood.
So
that's amazing.
I'm glad it sounds good.
Yeah, I was
like, wow, clear, really clear, sounds HD.
I know when I started the podcast, I didn't ask people if they liked it. I asked it if it sounded good. Yeah, that was my main concern. The content was going to be what it was, and
I'm gonna have to buy some of those, and I may have to get one, ship one to Charlie, and
There you go.
Got another
Oh, so
guy.
you say I sound bad. That's what you're saying to me.
No, it's an easy setup. I didn't realize it was such an easy setup.
Perfect.
I'm
And
joking.
Premier Resort Experience.
No, I got
waiting
because
for you
people that don't
on
do
your
this,
next visit
there's
to
no reason
French
for them to have that. But I was like, well, I didn't realize it was that stinking easy. I'm like, because wow,
Today's
I'm
guest
like,
is
wow.
brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry of Solorsburg. You need $1 million smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you'll get with Reynolds Family Dentistry.
Welcome back. Golf Club Eagle Point Studios, brought to you by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer. They've got a 0% sales event going on right now. Get 0% APR financing. Get in there right now. More to your door from AndyMooreHonda.com. Over the weekend, some good games in the Big Ten, guys. Iowa knocks off Ohio State. Maryland knocks off Michigan State. Michigan State's in their tournament troubles continue now. They'll be mad when Indiana visits tomorrow night. Baylor gets knocked off. That was just a matter of time, I think, with that daggone gauntlet of schedule they played. But I'm wondering, man, Gonzaga is only going to get 4 tough games probably to play. They have a legitimate shot to go undefeated and win a national championship. Charlie, I'll let you take it first.
Yeah, I mean, I said that kind of earlier. I don't know. I mean, they got challenged non-conference, but in conference, they have a chance to run the table. I mean, it's interesting, so, and again, they're loaded, a lot of talent. I don't see them losing in conference. I don't see them losing at all. So they have the opportunity to really run the tables.
But I do think when Baylor is at their best, I think that they're the best team in the country, but Michigan is looking good too, Jim. They came back from COVID unbelievably strong. I was shocked on how they came back because Baylor did not. They struggled against, I think it was Iowa State, and then they lost against a good team. But Michigan came back and just started punching people in the face again.
They have size at every position, it seems like, and that's we watched that Ohio State Michigan game. I was amazed at how physical it was, and really it was just because their guard, their wings are so big and strong compared to what we're seeing at least at Indiana right now. And I think that's where the difference is. Those guys can hit shots. Those guys can get in the paint, finish with contact. And you look at especially Isaiah Livers, the way he plays. I mean, he's 6'7", 230. And I literally just pulled that up because I kind of you started going that direction. There's no good matchup for him, for him with Indiana this past weekend. There just wasn't anything there physically that made sense. He's too quick for Race to guard him. He's too big for Durham to guard him, and I just really liked watching Michigan play, other than the fact that they were beating Indiana. So.
Yeah, they're a good team. It's exactly. I mean, I didn't expect anything different from that particular game, but they look strong, and Todd Leary thinks that they're a team that can be strong enough to win a national championship, and I agree. I mean, when they are playing at their peak, they look pretty good. Man, a freshman, dude, I'm drawing a blank on his name. Yeah, I mean. Yeah. Can you? And that dude gets another year, gets stronger. He is just a load right now. They have a lot of talent and a lot of weapons. They got guys that can shoot the ball, drive the ball, kick the ball. They're just they got a good team.
Well, you look at their roster. Livers plays as a 6'7" 3. Franz Wagner plays as a 6'9". He's listed as a guard. It doesn't matter. He's just skilled. And again, how that type of matchup is, as skilled as those guys are, is just extremely difficult for Indiana. They play the Chandi Brown kid, who's also good size for a wing. It's just those extra inches that that make a difference for them. And the Ohio State Michigan game a week and a half ago was an extremely physical game, played with grown men.
Yeah, and as this week for Indiana, they still have a chance to get into the tournament. I don't think that they're going to win either of these games, but they would have to beat Michigan State and Purdue in my mind, because they're out. They're not even in the last. I think they're the first 4 out. Beating Michigan State is not going to put them in. Beating Purdue would, but I think they have to beat Purdue to get in this thing, and they can lose the first game of the tournament. But if you don't beat Purdue at Purdue, I don't see them getting in, period. And that's probably not going to happen since they haven't beaten them in 5 years or however long it's been.
Too long, yeah.
It's just so that's where I think we're going to end up.
But Charlie I think you guys were talking about it when I came into the room. You guys were talking about like the ratings, how the rating system's working out and all that, how they probably still have a chance.
Right.
And
metrics, yeah.
I don't know if that's good or bad for basketball. I mean, I guess it would be good for IU fans where you're not really emphasizing winning as much as you are schedule. There can be some juggling in that. You don't want teams scheduling to win. Scheduling wins. You want teams scheduling for competition. But
correct.
I don't know. The Big Ten's such a gauntlet this year.
Well, that's what I'm saying, and I think that might be the saving grace. Obviously, you want straight up wins, so there's no doubt, right? There's no doubt that you are in. But what I was going off also the conversation that we were learning from LJ Wright when he was saying, how, there's the wins that you have, wins, losses you have, but then the way they look at things and how they compute things is different. So that's kind of what I was going off of. But yeah, I definitely understand. You want to make sure you are controlling your own fate in that regard, and not really relying on this team losing, that team doing this and that. So it's kind of tough.
Oh yeah. Well, coaches always want to control their own fate.
Yeah.
And they want to look. I mean, look, there's no moral victories either. You want to, but you feel better about a loss if you play well.
That's right.
And I don't think Indiana's. I try not to be overly clear. I don't think Indiana has looked good in a whole lot of capacities, except for Iowa.
I'm going to speak from a player's perspective, and I'm just sharing from what I see. This time of year, it just looks like the morale is down. I mean, you look at them play, you just watch body language. It just looks down.
They quit in the Rutgers game.
Huh?
I thought they quit.
No, yeah, but
in the Rutgers game.
Yeah, it was.
And I didn't think that in the Michigan game.
Yeah, that 22-point swing.
Yeah,
that's tough. I mean, that's a. And I'm not rehashing, but just going off of being in those situations. I mean, I remember games, not going back, but up 15, lose by 10, and you saw and you didn't see it real time. Watching film. You saw the slippage. You saw the miscommunication. You saw the rounding of cuts. You saw the lack of rebounding. Right now, I'm speaking from that standpoint, and to me, that's what I see more when I watch the little small things that happen that pretty much almost brings a degradation, and it just kind of takes the sail out. So that's kind of where I'm, speaking from that standpoint as a former player. Watching it just looks like it's down. When they get down, man, it's like it's tough to come back.
Well, it's just they can't score. They have no identity offensively.
Yeah,
that consistently works, and I don't think it's a scheme thing. You'd like to think, okay, we can change some things up to maybe get Trace in space more. Or race and all that rhyme. Trace and Trace Jackson Davis in space. Trace and race in space. Where they're not always body to body with people who are bigger than them. And this is where I think a healthy Brunk would have helped, especially Trace, because now he's getting smaller defenders, or the other team has to make a decision. We're going to put a smaller guy on Brunk.
Exactly.
Right now Trace is always getting the biggest defender. Because he's not a threat away from the basket just yet, other than driving. He's not a threat to shoot, so they can close out short on him and still be a step closer to the rim. So if he does drive, now he's really good at it. But that's their only true go-to opportunity, and especially with Franklin hurt. Yeah, when he goes down, he's the only guy that they've got that's been shooting consistently. It's just discouraging when you don't make shots. I mean, we all a vast majority of players identify with their offense more than their defense.
Of course.
The higher you go, the more guys you have that take pride in their defense because they know that's how they're going to get on the court.
Right.
But it's tough on a kid when they're not. I mean, I coach kids and I encourage them in the summer. This is a time for them to expand their game. And we probably have a kid or two every summer that it's probably still too soon for them to be doing that. But why not now? And, so that way they have experience doing it and maybe it starts to click in the fall and works for them in the winter. And we've had a situation like that. So I'm happy for that kid that he's starting to look good shooting the ball. So, but when you're not hitting shots and you're outsized at two positions, going back to what I was saying about Michigan, you're getting beat up physically and you're getting beat up mentally because you're not successful and making shots is not something you can control. If we could, we'd never miss.
Of course.
The only thing you control is the quality of the shot. And I don't know if there's a way for them to get more quality shots or not.
We'll do a little overtime today, but we're about time to wrap it up for the radio hour. I want to thank Jim Reamer, of course, and Charlie Miller and LJ Wright for joining us here today. Thank you guys most of all. If you want to stick around afterwards on the podcast, we're doing overtime, but it's going to wrap it up on the radio side. I hope you guys go out and have yourselves a great day. We'll be back tomorrow, of course. Kevin Brockway, Mike DeCourcy, Crowning Cougars along. Let's see what else we can get going. But go out and have yourself a nice day. Please continue to wear your mask. Do something nice for somebody. And until tomorrow, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio. Welcome back. A little overtime, but you can say whatever you want now, guys. We're off the radio or off air. So, but yeah, what were you talking about there at the end? That's the last thing.
Just confidence.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I thought they quit in the Rutgers game collectively. Yeah. The freshmen didn't.
The freshmen, it was nice to see them get to play, get more minutes. Archie was forced to change his lineup because of the injury. He has to start Jerome, and then the freshman got more minutes. Christian Lander actually scored 7 points, which is a career high for him, I think. At one time he was outscoring Trace Jackson Davis in the second half. You
mean the Michigan game or the Rutgers?
I think it was the Michigan
game. Yeah, I was
7-5.
The Rutgers game, I thought the team collectively quit.
Oh yeah,
on the game.
Yeah,
and then I don't know that I don't think it carried over in the Michigan game. Which was good. That was, I guess, one positive is that they didn't go in there and just
take it,
tuck their tail, and take it. They at least competed. But yeah, I mean, just that's a game where Trace is going to struggle because there's just they're outsized at two positions. It's a dead horse that I've beat.
Yeah.
Especially since Big Ten seasons became apparent that that's the issue, and I don't know. There's no way to change it this year. I assume Brunk wants to come back, if he's healthy next year, and that'll help.
He didn't go through the senior ceremonies, so I'm assuming that is his plan. Now Al Durham did go through those ceremonies, so he's probably not coming back. I'm going to guess.
Yeah, you hate to. I mean, I'd like to see some of those freshmen get. I'd hate to see anything alter the development of those four freshmen.
And they definitely need to continue to develop because they seem to be behind compared to other freshmen, but that's not fair to say to them because I think that I personally think it's hard. This system, it just seems to be harder for players to grasp because everybody that comes in is having problems. I don't know what the truth is with Parker Stewart, why he's not playing. Is it because he can't grasp the defense quick enough for Archie? I really don't know, but it's just, and they don't even seem to be running a pack line defense. I mean, I don't know. Are they changing everything now? And so it's so confusing.
Well, I don't know that it's Parker's. Well, okay. So I have access to Synergy, and what you can do on Synergy is watch possessions, and you can really get granular on what type of possessions you can watch. And I got a chance to watch his defensive possessions just on misses. So the guys he guarded missed the shot. Just wanted to see what his activity was, what his awareness was. It's not very flattering film. So he's struggling defensively, even at a time when his opponent isn't scoring. Like, so I didn't want to go through and look at the makes. Hell, we probably all look average to bad. Well, I couldn't guard anybody, but we all look bad when the other team's making shots. I wanted to see what he was doing on misses, if they were missing because he was closing out tight. It's bad film. I mean, he was disinterested, borderline lazy at times in some of those clips. And there's a good number of clips that you can access, but obviously he's not going to be able to do that and play for Miller. No. And they certainly have seen those clips before they offered him and had a discussion about it and talked about ways he has to improve.
They saw a lot of clips of Demezy Anderson too, but it didn't change that.
He was a freshman. He was a freshman. You can at least excuse a little bit.
Well, I'm laughing because there's another person that I know that is a coach, and they said, we didn't recruit him when he was in high school because I knew he couldn't play so-and-so. So anyway, Charlie, last question. If you would offer advice for change for Archie, what would they need to change at the end of the season?
Well, okay, so this time of year, you would hope, I mean, because again, I totally get it, and just take it for what it's worth. You would hope the younger players would have the opportunity to play a little bit more, because I mean, that's kind of where, like Don Fischer said, after the first half of the season, you're really not a freshman, right? So more contribution from the bench, right, to kind of mix it up a little bit. Lineup, but if you don't really have confidence, listening to his pressers, I'm listening to him and what he's saying about, you got a quiet group, right? So communication, I think it starts in practice. I'm not there. So I think it's the intangibles, man. It's the intangibles. I don't think it's anything other than just the small stuff that, again, like Jim said, you can get granular with, because I have synergy too, Jim. And I look at, I look at the play types. I look at, and so not to be too critical, it's really the small stuff. Again, how are you playing off-ball defense? How are you closing out? I know these things are being approached and talked about, and they're watching film on. It's in the moment, right? It's in the moment making those critical small plays that make the difference. So I think it's the small stuff, that you got to clean up. But you also got to win now. You got to win out.
Absolutely, man. Looking forward to talking to you guys a week from now, because the sectionals will have happened, and we'll have plenty to talk about there. And then Charlie, of course, we'll know whether or not Indiana is going to be in the tournament as well. I hope you guys go out and both have a great rest of your week. What's coming up for you, Jim?
Oh, sectionals. I'll be at Carmel on Tuesday. I'll be at Tech on Wednesday for the Cathedral Lawrence North game and the Warren Central Lawrence Central game. And then Friday I'll be back at Carmel. I become a straight homer this time of year. I follow Carmel until they get beat or until they don't get beat, which has been fortunately happened enough. But I'll be pretty much sectional bound either at Carmel High School or Tech High School this week. Charlie, Todd Leary's son is a player on that team as they're going for a state championship. He's had some big moments this year too.
Nice.
He's one of those irrational confidence kids. He comes in and gets shots, doesn't care. He has really improved defensively. I did say he was the worst defender of the bunch of kids that get regular minutes. I think that's fair because, for one thing, a lot of those kids are really good defensive players, but he is a willing defender. And he does some good things, and he has saved their bacon a couple times this year. So good for him.
Well, beating Lawrence North says a lot in that team, man. That's a lot.
At LN, and it was almost like every time he hit a shot, he could point up at his dad's jerseys up on the wall because they have the All-Star jerseys up there. And I think one time he did kind of point up there at it, like, "Hey, this is where my dad did it." But I was that game and the Bar Reeve game. The Bar Reeve game really is he was good against Lawrence North, but the Bar Reeve game is when he basically brought Carmel back, and he utterly saved their bacon that game.
Charlie, what do you have coming up?
Just more player development stuff. I mean, this is now basketball is over pretty much here. players are going on, a tournament, but now it's just more so getting ready for my spring season. I also travel too. I do. I'm what you call a head clinician. I travel with a company called Breakthrough Basketball, and I do camps throughout the season. So I'm kind of ramping up for that with curriculums and things of nature. So this is kind of like my season. The off season is like my season, right?
Well, hopefully you get to looking forward to getting to have one this year too.
You know how it goes, exactly, Jim.
Start,
you know how it goes, man.
We start in 2.5 weeks. So
that's right. So now this is, this is kind of like my reprieve, and now you got the curriculums and what you got to get better at and all the improvement. So it's a fun time for me. So
yeah, I don't get a reprieve, and this never stops. It's just going to the next thing. That's okay, guys.
Jim, Coy, I'm proud of you because you're doing a really good job of being positive. I don't know when Leary gets going. I think you guys just get going. I know Todd's like beaming, just bursting and ready to go. But he's doing it. I'm proud of you guys, though.
Trying, man. I've been trying. Appreciate it. I've been trying here of late. I'm like, you know what? It's not going to do any good. Just let's wait till the season's over. It's very difficult when you have strong opinions. When you're like, okay. I mean, I've been quiet for a year because I've been saying things behind the scenes for a year, but now and just fruition. But let's get through the season. We'll have fun with it. So, but just getting to talk to you guys is fun anyway. So, like today was just a blast getting to talk to LJ and talk about sectionals with Jim and all that stuff. There's plenty of fun stuff to talk about, and as the numbers continue to come down, we're going to have more and more fun. I'm looking forward to tailgating at football next year, and just let's get back to normal, man. I'm just looking forward to it. But thank you guys a ton as always, and thank everybody else as well. We look forward to doing this again tomorrow, man. We'll be back then for Jim Reamer, Charlie Miller. I'm Jim Coyle. I will do something nice for somebody. Wear your mask, and until tomorrow, I will see you on the radio.
All right. Thank you, guys.
All right. Thanks. See you, Charlie.
See you.